Good afternoon to our viewers. This is Fatty McChubb with another Candid COVID Conversation episode. Today's topic is about safety concerns with reopening schools. I'm joined by veteran educator Mr. Loren, who is a preschool special education teacher in New Jersey, which, for some of our viewers who didn't win Smarter Than a First Grader, is located in the United States of America. Good afternoon, Mr. Loren. Thank you for being with us.
Hi there, Ms. McChubb. Thanks for having me.
Mr. Loren, you are a preschool teacher, specifically one that works with children with disabilities. You were telling our producer that you've been working with your students remotely since mid-March, when your school closed its doors because of COVID. You've also been teaching the summer program remotely.
Yes, like all schools around us, COVID hit and educators and families scrambled to come up with some sort of plan to conduct school remotely. There were schools that were struggling to implement remote instruction because of issues relating to technology, to staff training, to getting the parents equipped, developing teaching models, getting food to families. Some of the kids also get reduced and free lunches and breakfast, so we had to make sure we had coverage for that, and helping kids who were in the process of graduating too. We had kids in high school who were trying to meet their credits and get everything in, so many other issues. Remember, when we thought school was just going to close for maybe 2 weeks or so, never did we think schools were going to remain closed for the rest of the school year, like nearly 3 months.
And now some schools have announced they are remaining closed once school begins.
Well, yes, in some instances, just a delayed opening of a few weeks. Some are stating that they will be reopening and staff are required to return. That's a concern.
That's a whole other issue, since it seems schools are stating they will reopen for fears only because they will lose federal funding if they don't. As you know, the President of the United States has said schools will not receive funding if they don't reopen. This has been supported by the Education Secretary, who herself supports private religious schools. Is this a political move to break public schools, break the teachers' union, and turn education into a private business?
Whoa, that's a lot to unload there, Mr. McChubb. I prefer we let your viewers decide when they vote. They need to ask these questions of their school leaders, though. Candidates for local school boards, town councils and committees, elected state officials, and of course the Oval Office. I will say that change happens locally. So don't just think voting in your favorite presidential candidate will change everything. A lot of actions will happen locally, so those are the elections we need to pay mind to, and make sure we put pressure on our local leaders too, find out their stance and what their plans are.
Fair enough. Let's move on to the topic of reopening schools. You said that you've been teaching remotely, and teaching preschoolers with special needs at that. How does it work with little 3, 4, and 5-year-old kids?
I will tell you that sometimes I get really sad, I get upset, I can't see my students, I miss them a lot. I know it sounds a little cliche, but they're so funny, they're so cute, and for them, being a student, being in a school community is new. It's a new experience. I love that about the kids. They're still developing their language, and they're still developing all these skills to be around other kids. So, the kids in my class, some of them joined 2 weeks before school closed, so we hardly even got our feet off the ground with them. And then there's the kids that joined my class after we had the school closure, so I haven't even met some of my kids in person. It's just been through video. For many of the kids, this is the first time they're away from their grown-ups. In class, we work on so many other skills, not just letters and numbers and colors and shapes. But we work on socialization skills, motor skills, we work on self-help skills and toileting skills, dressing, behavior, speech, language, communication, independence. There's a lot of things, play, and all the skills they need as lifelong learners, such as building resiliency and working as part of a team. We're helping them understand that how others feel too, and thinking outside the box. I love this age group because I also get to work alongside my students' families. For many of my families, they are just now learning that their child has a developmental delay of some sort. For some, their child couldn't attend a private preschool because of behaviors. 99% of the time it was related to how the program was being run, not necessarily the child. I'm helping parents find and utilize resources and strategies to best help their child. Helping them advocate for their kid, to understand the education system, to really meet their child's needs, and then help them and their child with the transition to kindergarten, which is a big step at this age.
Okay, so that was then, pre-COVID. What's happening now?
as much as I'd like to say we've got it all under control and everything's running perfectly, your viewers and you and I, we all know that it's impossible to say that. So I know one of the benefits is I work with families much more closely than I had before. We are in constant contact. I'm quite literally in their home every day through video chats, video lessons, and video meetings. We text and email continually. This has been what some refer to as that silver lining. So we're really embracing that, and I just enjoy that aspect of the remote teaching and the remote learning a lot. Trying to provide consistency through daily class circle time, morning emails, scheduled one-to-one video chats and lessons, drive-by visits while I'm in my car, daily activity schedules. I'm trying to provide substance, make sure my daily activities are thoroughly thought out and planned so that they address each child's needs. So, if they're working on one skill in speech or occupational therapy or physical therapy, we're tying that in. So now there's some carryover, just like we kind of had in school when the therapist would come in the classroom and work. So trying to do that through videos and our lessons and some of our team planning. I don't want the kids in front of the screen all the time because it's very difficult for a little 3 or 4-year-old to be in front of the screen for extended amounts of time. So, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Some of the older kids I'm working with this summer, we're trying a 45-minute circle time and lessons, guided drawing, working on reading and writing skills. So another aspect we need to do is solidify the teacher-student relationship. So this remote learning has been helping by keeping in constant contact with our students in their homes. So they're seeing my face, they're hearing my voice, whether it's live or through videos. So, and then, they're seeing their peers too, which is important. They're seeing other kids on the screen. I've been teaching for over 25 years now, and I feel like I'm a first-year teacher. I'm reinventing, recreating, redeveloping curriculum, lessons, activities. It is a lot of work, and so I know there's a lot of people out there that feel the teachers are off. We're just sitting on our butts and not doing much work while we're doing remote teaching. But for those that are putting in a lot of time, it's constant. It's constant. I mean, we put a lot of time into the classroom to begin with. First one into school, last one out. But now it's a whole different avenue. We're reteaching ourselves skills as well.
So we know kids need to be in school. They learn so many skills from the classroom environment. The kids, their peers, the therapists. The big question is, how do we reopen schools? How do we get kids to return? How do we get staff to return?
Yes, you'd think there'd be a plan in place already. No, the government, including our education secretary, they've had 4 months since schools have closed to come up with a plan. And if you think about before March, even more planning when you looked at other countries around the globe that were having issues. So we've had wars that have taken less time to plan. So I think first you have to look at the education system as a whole. We have antiquated buildings set up like some sort of a teaching factory, which was the vision back in the day in the industrial age. They wanted to produce little learners, little kids. You got to set them up, and so they were complete with neat compartmentalized rooms and hallways and lines and bells to signal when these little products would move around, and brick walls to keep them contained and safe, and then smokestacks coming out the top, asphalt parking lots, which also serve as playgrounds and cafeterias with lines, and the dated lighting and poor ventilation, which is still an issue, which it's even more of an issue now with COVID. So that's one aspect to keep in mind. Another is the curriculum itself. We have to look at how we're prioritizing education in general. That's a whole other conversation. Another is the approach to education that we use to teach the curriculum, our delivery model. So the methodology, the expectations from learners and their families and teachers. And another aspect of the education system is the family itself. The role in the child's education, the family's role, their needs. They have to go to work. They have to care for younger siblings. They have to provide health care, nutrition, love, shelter, and of course they have to have fun with their kids too. And they have to plan for their child's future. So here's one way to think of remote learning. Teachers are experts in teaching, math and science, social skills, reading, all that stuff. Therapists are experts in therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, behavior therapy, all kinds of therapies. Administrators are experts in administrating, right? They're good at scheduling, evaluations, implementing curriculum, developing the curriculum, professional development, managing people. So parents are experts in parenting. That's what their job is, providing shelter, and love, and health, and safety, food, and cleanliness, support the kids, and have fun, and give them clothing, and drop them off at school, and be home when they're there, planning for their future, all that stuff. So now here we are during COVID, during a pandemic when we're all home, And not one of these groups, we're finding, are experts in remote learning. Nobody's an expert in remote learning. So we're all learning on the fly as we go. We got caught off guard in the beginning and we're trying to catch up. Our wheels are spinning and no one's communicating. No one's doing it together. We're not getting any guidance from the government. We're not getting guidance from the state. Our board of eds are trying to figure it out. Our administrators are trying to figure out. The teachers are trying to figure out. The parents are trying to figure it out. There's no plan. Teachers now, what we were doing in school, parents are now doing at home. And what our therapists were doing, now our parents are doing at home. And the administrators, what they were doing, now the parents are doing at home. And what the parents were doing back then, they're still doing now. Plus, on top of that, they're taking on the role of the educator, the administrator, the therapist, while doing laundry, managing siblings, while cooking and cleaning, and while making sure their kids are healthy and safe and entertaining them and learning how to Zoom and how to manage behaviors and help this child on that Zoom and this child on their Google Meet and figure out all these different platforms to teach their kids. Plus, reading the headlines, staying up to date, making sure they can figure out what their future looks like, and anxiously waiting for any semblance of order, any plan from any of their failed leaders. And so, Mr. McChubb, it's been very difficult for parents. I'm a parent too. I understand where they're coming from. My kids are older. I'm fortunate in that sense, but I really feel for parents with the young kids. Families that have 1, 2, 3, 4 more kids, usually 5 or more, they're probably homeschooling them. I don't know how parents are doing it.
We interrupt this program with a special flash news alert. Alert, alert, alert.
Hi, the president's going to tell us some information now. And he's going to have the scientists speak first. Where are they're not here. Oh, okay. Press briefing over.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled program. So yeah, these 3 teachers walk into a school and we're back. This is Fatty McChubb. Welcome back. Let's continue our conversation with educator Mr. Loren.
So what will it take to get me back in the classroom? Well, I need some guarantees. And I need guarantees that my students have been following the CDC guidelines and our state laws regarding social distancing, wearing a mask, following general safety protocols. They're not attending summer camp, since those summer camps we know have been not following safety protocols. They're not participating in any outdoor, huge unsocially distanced activities. So I need guarantees that they're following all those guidelines. I also need guarantees that my coworkers are following the guidelines as well, because I'm going to be working alongside them. We're going to be using the same bathrooms, the same photocopier, going in and out of the same office, sharing the same hallways, having meetings. I want to make sure they're following the guidelines too. I need guarantees that my classroom be properly supplied with cleaning supplies, PPE, hand sanitizer, plexiglass where needed, flooring tape, storing the materials, all my stuff, because they're going to have to make the classrooms a little less busy, because we need to have space for all the kids to spread them out. And I want to know and make sure that all the surfaces are cleaned regularly throughout the school. I need guarantees that my classroom staff, my teaching assistants, all the visiting therapists, the CST child study team, that my peers, the school staff will be properly supplied with PPE and all the necessary equipment that they need to make their job safe and to work with kids in a safe manner. I would expect to be provided with extra time to clean and monitor my classroom and set it up. You know, I have 3 teacher assistants in my classroom generally, and myself, and we have our little kids, and I want to make sure everyone is safe, plus our visiting therapists. I expect the school district to train me on COVID safety. All faculty and all the parents too. Everyone should be taking part in some sort of a training session so we can all abide by the same rules and have the same guidelines for safety. I expect there'll be health coverage in our school building. And I don't mean health care coverage like insurance. I mean, we usually have one nurse and she's managing all the kids. She's managing the hearing screenings, the vision screenings. She's managing all the boo-boos. She's managing all the I miss my mommies. So we need someone else who can come and help take temperatures and monitor the environment, make sure everyone's being safe, keeping socially distanced, and I need to know that someone's helping that one nurse. So I think we're going to have to bring in other professionals, because I don't think it's our role as the educators to monitor the health of the kids beyond, usually it's a runny nose or a boo-boo and a Band-Aid. But now we're talking pretty serious virus, so We need someone that can do all the contact tracing and monitor the kids in the environment as well. The visitors that come to the school, I hope there's not going to be any, and if they are, they're limited to a certain space. So that goes for substitute teachers, people coming in to visit. We have some therapists that just come in once a week to work with a child. We have people that run activities, and we have people, parents, dropping off a lunch or a backpack or something. So we need to keep all the visitors in check too. There needs to be some guidelines there. I expect like a cohort model, a smaller model, so that the teacher has their set amount of kids and the set therapists, and so there's less people milling about and traveling from room to room to room, because we really need to create our own little bubbles within the school. I really hope that the schools will act independent of themselves. They'll have one big plan, but that if one child is sick in one school, that school can shut down for 2 weeks while they clean and while they do the contact tracing and while they make sure that nobody else is infected or sick. But the other schools can remain open if that's going to be the case, because we know once schools open, that's when the infection rate goes up. And then that goes for the staff as well. So if a staff member's sick, same thing. And I need to trust that the information that's out there is going to come back to me and my coworkers and the families I work with. If someone's tested positive, I need to know where are they. I don't need to know who it was. I don't want to violate any medical confidentiality, but we need to know where the infections took place and where the cases were, so that we're aware of what's happening. I would expect that any supplies I need I could get right away, that I don't have to fill out a requisition order and then wait, or I have to get it emailed, then I have to fill it out as a PDF and send it back and put the order form and find the prices and the units. I expect that if I have an issue and I need some supplies, that I can easily just get them. I also want to make sure I have time for my own family should I need it, or myself or my wife. I want to know that if someone in my family is sick and I need to care for them, well, then I should be able to do that. Plus, it also goes along with that cohort model and also the bubbling, where if I have someone in my family that's sick, then I shouldn't be coming into work as well. Our safety is number one, and that of our kids and our staff.
Well, that seems like a very big list. Some of our viewers might say that you are privileged. You have a job, you have health benefits, you're young, and from your school photos, so very good looking.
Yeah, those are some pretty good photos. Well, I can only say that I'm a dad of 2 kids, a husband to a public school worker as well as myself. I have my own health issues. I love my students. I love my families I work with, my coworkers, most of my coworkers, And I fully understand and appreciate all that I have, from a job with health benefits to having a pension. I'm very fortunate, and I understand that. I have a family that's doing fine under quarantine. We can order our groceries. My kids are doing well as remote learners. And I'm fully aware that I'm living in a country that favors whiteness and a gender that happens to have been born with a penis. All right, I know. Can I say that on your show? Is that okay?
Yes. Penis is completely acceptable. You just can't say or.
Oh, okay. So if we put aside the partisanship, we put aside the politics, we put aside the shaming of wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, of the in-person or remote-only teaching and being in school, and instead we just focus on what's best for our children, I believe we can find a solution to many of the school issues facing us.
What's the solution? Where's your plan, some might ask?
Well, I made a chart. I hope you don't mind. I used a Sharpie.
Okay, can we get that chart up, please?
I believe we have a responsibility to keep schools closed, but with a few caveats. Number one, I really believe districts, townships, states, and the government should be pumping money into programs to help families stay home. We can spend billions on national defense in the form of weapons, training, funding, wars. This is a global pandemic. We should be pumping money into defending our children, families, businesses that we don't have ties to. This administration, of course, they already got their small business loan in the beginning. Remember that? Fully trained teachers on remote learning and platforms that the district is utilizing. We need to fully train parents on the remote learning and platforms the district is utilizing. Support and provide technology for teachers to teach remotely. That would be great. And fully support the families at their homes to have that technology, to use it. I think we need to provide families financial support and protections to families who need to remain home while schools are closed. Another option is to open one school within a school district, and make that the therapy hub, a place for students with special needs that can come, get their speech therapy, their occupational therapy, get their physical therapy. It can be done outdoors, with weather permitting, in different tents. We set up tents all the time for sports events. We can set up tents. We have barriers. small plastic walls we can use, disassemble a gaga pit, I don't know, there's so many ideas out there. And have these kids with special needs come in and get their services that they missed, they truly need. Sure, they're getting them through remote instruction, but it's nothing like having in person. So, granted, we need the therapists that can provide it, we need families that will agree to it, and we need to get these kids their services that they're missing, because that gap is widening. We're working on keeping that gap narrow between the kids that are typically developing and those kids that really need these skills in order to move on and need less intervention as they grow older. I think it's okay if we start planning for some outdoor events that are safe. Small groups of students can safely, socially distance, of course, participate in teacher-led activities, such as a lesson or performance, music, maybe some PE skills that kids can do in their own socially distanced space in a large field. Man that teacher with a microphone and an amp, and parents can observe from their cars, however you want to work it. Drama, read-alouds, you can have small groups, but I think there's ways to plan that safely, and I think that'd be great also to get that contact with the kids and the visuals and with their peers too. I'm also thinking maybe we should drop the Pledge of Allegiance as we know it, right? And instead develop a Pledge of Responsibility. Can you go to that screen that you have? Yeah, okay, that one, yeah.
I pledge allegiance to others, my parents, teachers, sisters, and brothers, doing my best as I grow and learn, respecting others as they do in return. Together we'll discover, together we'll explore, family, community, earth, and friends, together becoming so much more. I pledge my allegiance proudly with you, with understanding we have work to do. We can make our tomorrows better indeed, beginning right now with you and I in the lead.
I sometimes think this, to put it in perspective. What would an 80-year-old think was most important when they were kids? When they were kids 75 years ago, 70 years ago? Was it being in school, inside a school building to learn, being inside a school building, or was it their health? I think when we look back on this, we'll be thankful that we made those decisions.
Well, folks, that's it for today's episode of Candid COVID Conversations. Our guest today was Mr. Loren, a public school teacher in New Jersey. Thank you, Mr. Loren, for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chubb. I wish you and your viewers a very healthy and safe end of summer and beginning of the new school year.
Folks, this is Fatty McChubb. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for our next episode when we explore probably all the comments from airing this show.